Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another day of Bookmas. In today's video I'm going to be talking about 24 books that I would like to read in 2024, and then at the end of next year we will be revisiting this to see how many of these I've actually read. Keep in mind I'm not going to talk about new releases because I've made a separate video on books that I'm excited to be released next year. These are the books on my physical TBR that I own that I want to get through next year. So let's just jump straight into it. The first one we have is A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. I absolutely loved Divine Rivals. I adored that book with everything. I think that is like one of my top reads of 2023, and of course I want to go back into more of Rebecca Ross's writing to see if I get the same feeling from her other books, which I feel like I will, because the way she writes is so lyrical and so magical and I just love it so much. I have heard some very mixed opinions about this book and this little duology I think it is so far, but I'm gonna go into it with an open mind because I think that I'll really like this just from like the vibes of the cover and everything like that. The next one we have is Belladonna by Adeline Grace. This is another book that I've heard very mixed reviews on. I saw that Hayley Pham DNF'd this book, which kind of scares me a little bit, but I am really excited to try it out for myself as well. I honestly have no idea what this book is about, but the name of the book really intrigues me, and I know that there's a second book that comes after this one as well. I'm just hoping that I'm one of the people that really adore this book because I know it's kind of like a love-hate relationship people have with this book. The next book I really want to read is Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher, which is the first book in a new series that she's starting. I think it's called the Lakefront Billionaires series, and I haven't even finished the Dreamland Billionaires series. I know I've only read the fine print and I absolutely loved it, but for some reason I haven't continued that series, nor have I read the Dirty Air series from her, but I still really want to go into this because I've heard nothing but amazing things about this book, and I think that she is an amazing writer, but for some reason I just don't really think about picking up her books often, so I kind of like push them to the back a little bit. The next book I have is House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I've heard some really negative things about this book and this author recently, so I don't know like when I'm actually going to go into this, but I've also heard that it's just a really cute little fantasy to get into. Not really entirely sure what it's about. I think it's about these kids with like magical powers and they get sent to this house on top of this cliff, I guess, and I'm really intrigued by this book. I feel like I will really enjoy it. It could be like a little bit young just from the vibes of the cover, but I still really want to get into this and form my own opinion on this book. The next book I have is Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. This is her first ever YA romance, and I didn't like the love hypothesis from her. I'm currently reading Love Theoretically and I'm absolutely loving it. It's such a cute book. So yeah, I'm hoping that I really like this. The only thing that's put me off about this so far is that the first page mentions a lot of like social media platforms and celebrities and all of that stuff, and that's something that really turns me off in a book. That's like one of my biggest book icks, when they mention social media and things like that. So I'm hoping that the whole book isn't like that, but I've heard that it kind of is, and I think that that's one of the reasons why I will push reading this book back even more, just because I feel like it might put me in a bit of a slump. The next one is Legendary by Stephanie Garber, which is the second book in the Caraval trilogy. I really want to finish reading the Caraval trilogy so I can reread Once Upon a Broken Heart and The Ballad of Never After, because I didn't read this trilogy first and I kind of regret not doing that because apparently they give more of a background on Jax, who is in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. So I'm reading the Caraval series and then going back in to reread those books. So on the same topic of that, we have A Curse for True Love. I haven't actually read this yet because obviously I'm gonna plan to reread them and annotate them completely. So excited to see where Stephanie Garber takes this series and see how the little trilogy wraps up, but I'm also really nervous because I absolutely adored the first two books. I think they were so magical and whimsical and I just loved them so much, and I've heard some mixed reviews about this book, to be honest. The next book I have is Flock by Kate Stewart, which is the first book in the Ravenhood trilogy. Now I honestly have no idea what this series is actually about, but a girl from my work told me that she recommends it and it's like one of the best series she's ever read, so it's kind of been high on my priority TBR since she told me that, because I did own the first two books but I never actually really thought about picking them up anytime soon. But I do really want to get into this series. I do wish I had the US covers because I don't like this cover at all and it's kind of putting me off reading the book, but I feel like once I actually get into this I'll absolutely adore it. Like, it's just one of those books that I can tell I'm gonna love. The next book I have is Renegades by Marissa Meyer, which is the first book in the Renegades trilogy, I believe. I've heard nothing but amazing things about this. Apparently it's really just fast paced and easy to get through. It's actually a sci-fi. I believe it's about superheroes, which just really intrigues me because I've never read anything like that before, and I honestly don't know how I'm gonna feel about that, but I do hope that I'm one of the people that loves this as well. Next up we have A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed. I honestly don't really know anything about this book. I kind of want to go into this blind. The only thing I know, I think, is that it's like academic rivals, which is something that I love in a book. Like that's one of my favorite tropes, I think. It always seems to be one of the ones that you can't really do badly. So I'm very excited to go into this. The cover is absolutely stunning. Like it's just attracting me to read this book even more. And I think that I will thoroughly enjoy this when I actually go into it. Next up we have Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. Okay, sorry about the rain in the background. It's literally like 30 degrees today, but it's raining at the same time and like storming a little bit. So if you hear thunder and rain, I apologize. But yeah, I'm a little bit nervous to go into this one because, as I said, I'm getting into my fantasy era. I'm not sure if this is going to be a little bit too much for me, too much world building, a little bit too complicated. So I've kind of been putting it off for that reason, but apparently it is quite easy to get into. The magic system is just a little bit complicated, but I feel like I'm just being dramatic and it will probably be really easy when I actually get into it. The next one we have is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. I think I said that wrong probably, but this is just meant to be a really cozy fantasy, so I'm definitely planning on reading this in like autumn or winter, like in the colder seasons. The only thing putting me off reading this book is because the main character obviously has the same name as me, and that can just be a little bit weird to read about, but it could also like indulge me in the story more, so maybe that's actually a good thing. But this book just looks absolutely adorable, and I think it's the first book as part of a little series as well. The next book we have is Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake. This is kind of just the book that I really want to read from Olivia Blake, but I'd love to read just any Olivia Blake book next year because I've never read a book by them before. Kind of a little bit scared, but this book is like massive writing and it's literally like under 300 pages, so I know that this would be really easy to get through once I actually get to it, but for some reason it's just intimidating me. I don't know if it's like the size of the paperback or what, but something about this just scares me a little bit and I need someone to actually convince me to pick this up. I've heard amazing things about it. The next book we have is Kiss the Sky by Krista and Becca Ritchie. This is the fourth book in the Addicted / Calloway Sisters series. I read the first 3 books this year and absolutely loved them, but for some reason I've been scared to go into the Calloway Sisters side of the series. I don't know why. That's like my reason for every single one of these books. I've been like too scared to go into them and read them. I need to stop making that an excuse because it's definitely just making me scared to read books I shouldn't be scared to read. This book follows Rose and Connor, and I'm so excited to see where the relationship goes in this book because we've seen like a little bit of enemies to lovers with them in the other books, and I feel like this book's going to be a bit of a roller coaster. Next up we have The Vanishing Stair by Maureen Johnson. This is the book that comes after Truly Devious. I just really want to continue this series because I quite enjoyed Truly Devious. It wasn't one of the best books I've ever read, but I do think that it's set up for a really good series, so I think this one will be better for sure. It's just like a little YA mystery. I don't think it's really talked about enough. I feel like it's going to be a really amazing series overall. The next one we have is Killer Instinct by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Again, another series I want to continue. This is the second book in the Naturals series. I absolutely loved the Naturals and I'm just really excited to see where this series goes. Every single book in the Naturals series follows like a little mini mystery that they have to solve, but then I think the whole series overall is like one massive mystery as well that we will find out at the end, and that really intrigues me because I love like little books where they have to solve like an unsolved crime or something like that, and that's exactly what this series is. I'm so excited to continue this series now that we finally have the physical copies in Australia. The next one is Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I honestly don't really know much about this book. All I know is that the cover really intrigues me. I'm probably going to read this like in summer just because it gives me that sort of vibe. Honestly, I have no idea what the book's about, but I do want to get to reading like the rest of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books next year because I just adore her writing. I think I've loved everything that she's written besides Daisy Jones and the Six, so I think that I'll enjoy the rest of her books, but I just need to actually push myself to read them and finish them all. Okay, the next one is a really intimidating read. I don't know when I'm going to get the chance to go into this. It could be like a autumn winter sort of read again, and that is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. This book is just massive. Like, I don't think the camera will do it justice. It's got, let's see, it's got about 800 pages in it, and the writing is also really tiny from what I can just see, but I see a lot of people saying that they will never read this because of the size of the book, and that just makes me want to actually try to read it because I feel like a lot of people are just intimidated by the size, but I feel like either a book in this size is just dragged on and really boring, or it's absolutely phenomenal and just very lyrical and a beautiful story, and I honestly don't know much about what this is about either, but I think that if I actually push myself to get through this, I will absolutely love it. The next one we have is Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. I have never read a Sophie Lark book before, but I really want to, so this is the first book as part of the Brutal Prince series, and I've heard amazing things about this series. It's definitely something that I'm intrigued in, especially because of the cover, like especially the strawberries. Like I don't know what it is about those strawberries. I'm assuming they're going to be symbolic to the story, and honestly I couldn't even tell you if this is a fantasy or just a romance. I don't actually have any idea what genre this book even is, so I'm going to go into it completely blind because that's how I like going into my books. The next one we have, I've been putting off for months now actually reading, so I know it's not going to get done in December, and that is By a Thread by Lucy Score. The only intimidating thing about Lucy Score's books is the size of them. Like this is like 550 pages, and it's like, what can she possibly put into 550 pages in a romance book? I love all of her books that I've read. Like I loved the Knock 'Em Out series, so I don't know why I'm scared to go into this. It will be something that I definitely get to next year. I feel like this is also like a very like cozy, like raining all day winter sort of read. I don't know. When I pick up a book, I often have vibes about like the type of weather that you have to read them in. The next one we have is The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I read The 7-Year Slip I think last month or in October possibly, and absolutely loved it. It was a time travel romance, and this one is about her falling for a ghost from what I can tell about the back of the book, so I'm very interested to see where this story goes. I feel like I'm very intrigued to see anything about this story. It's just not something that I would normally think about reading, but because I loved The 7-Year Slip, I think that I will really love this one as well. And there's just something in Ashley Poston's writing that is so easy to read and get through. And then the last 3 books I'm going to talk about are all from V.E. Schwab. I don't know what it is about V.E. Schwab's writing, but it really intimidates me. I've never actually read a book from them before. So the first one I have is Vicious. I've seen Rachel Catherine talk about this book quite a bit and how much she enjoyed it, so that's definitely convinced me to try to pick this book up even more. That's like the reason why I bought this book. Honestly, I don't have any idea what this book or any of these books by them are about. As I said, I love going into books blind, so we'll see if I enjoy it once I actually go into it. Then I have A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. This book looks absolutely amazing. I've heard nothing but good things about this book in particular. Some of their books have very like mixed reviews and mixed opinions, but personally I've only ever seen positive things about this one, and I think this is part of a trilogy, I believe. I know it's part of a series, and yeah, I'm just really intrigued to go into this book. And the last one by V.E. Schwab that I'm hoping to read is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I have been putting this book off for like 2 years now. Like I've had the paperback on my shelf for 2, possibly 3 years, and I bought this beautiful special edition just because I wanted it on my shelf, and now I feel like I actually have to read the book because I bought a special edition for it. So it's like, how can you have a special edition for a book you haven't even read? All I know is that it's meant to be really beautifully written, and that's something that I love in a book. But yeah, that sums up the 24 books that I'm hoping to read in 2024. I literally cannot wait to like revisit this video next year. I might do like a little reaction video to my own video. With all of that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video.